Hello, my name is David Rippy. I am a certified hypnotherapist where I take clients into a deep hypnotic state where they can share details of a previous life. This is the chapter of a book titled Native American Woman in my book, The Immortal Soul. Enjoy.
Native American Woman. The hypnotic induction that was used in this past life reading was left out as to avoid repetition, as many inductions sound similar. The subject was brought into a deep hypnotic state and recounts a life as a young female Native American Indian in her late teens living in Virginia or West Virginia in the 1700s. David, I want you just to share with me what you see. Subject, it's not a town or a city. It's a village. David, and what kind of structures are in this village? Subject, they have thatched roofs. They are simply built, and they're not very durable. David, do you see people around the village? Subject, yes. David, and what are some of them doing? Subject, cooking over fires and sharpening tools. David, are they sharpening tools to hunt or? Subject, for hunting. David, can you describe some outfits they're wearing? Subject, looks like leather but suede like animal skin. David, you're floating along in the bubble, just taking it in. You're going to be an observer, and you can step out of your bubble anytime you want and move closer toward the scene, whatever you prefer. You are safe, and you can leave your bubble and walk among the people, and they won't be able to see you. Can you do that? Subject, yes. David, and what do you do in the village? Do you know your job or what do you like to do? Subject, I weave. David, and what do you weave? Subject, I weave mats and patches for the roofs. David, and how old do you think you are in this life, roughly? Subject, 17 or 18. David, so you can see yourself. Subject, yeah. David, okay. And what are you wearing? Subject, a dress that's made out of animal hide, and I have a pouch hanging off my one shoulder. David, and what do you keep in your pouch? Subject, herbs and a knife and tools. David, what color is your hair? How long is it? Subject, it's dark. Dark brown, almost black. It's long, and I wear it in a braid down my back. David, do you know your name? Subject, Akinawa. David, can you say that one more time, please? Subject, my name was something else like that. It's hard to translate. It was longer than that, but Kainawa was my nickname. David, can you see the first letter if it was printed on a piece of paper? Subject, I don't know how to write it. David, because it is in a whole different language, right? Subject, well, I don't write. I wasn't thinking when I asked the question, as I had not yet approached the subject concerning the time period or tribe she was experiencing in that life, to get a better idea of the culture. The first tribe to produce a written language in North America was the Cherokee, called Jollagee, in 1821. Other tribes adopted written English later, or developed their own writing system. It is believed that the Olmecs of Mexico developed a writing system over 3,000 years ago, the oldest known writing in the Americas. The Zapotecs had written by 500 BC, 2,500 years ago, and Mayan glyphs appeared in Yucatan, Honduras, Guatemala, and Belize by about 250 BC, 2,250 years ago. All of these were fully developed and complete writing systems, able to record the sounds of their respective languages. Almost all Native Americans throughout the Americas developed a system of pictographs, which are fundamentally ways of reminding the viewer about events, people and places, but they are not a proper writing system. Their communication methods are closely related to the primitive prehistoric pictographs of Australian Aborigines and the cave art of Europe. David, so you don't know how to write your name, I understand. Well, it's a pretty name. Does it mean anything in particular in your tribe or village? Subject, it means the part of the flower just before it starts to bloom. David, nice. Now do you have one name, or do you have two names or more? Subject, you have your given name that you are born with, and then some people have a nickname based on their personality or their physical appearance. And you have a name that you take if you marry. David, now are you close to marrying, or are you already married? Subject, I'm married. David, and what is your husband's name? Subject, actually. David, say that one more time. Subject, his name is Achuli. David, Achuli, okay, and what does that mean? Subject, the translation is not exact, but it means someone who is sturdy or someone who is not moved easily. Stubborn, I think is the word. David, so, a pretty solid, sturdy guy overall. Subject, yeah. David, do you have children? Subject, yeah, we do. David, how many children? Subject, I had 4. David, good. And can you give me a little information on them, their names or how old they are? Boy or girl? Subject, my oldest is a boy. There's another boy and a baby. Baby girl. David, so 2 boys and a baby girl, that's 3. Do you have a daughter older than the baby? Subject, no, I lost a baby. I lost a baby recently. David, I'm sorry to hear that. So, you have 3 surviving babies, right? Subject, yeah, she's almost a year old. David, okay, so sadly, you and actually lost a child not that long ago. Subject, yeah. David, sorry to hear that, but remember, you are just observing that life as you remember. And what does your husband do for work? Subject, he's a hunter, and he trades the animal skins and the meats with other men in other villages. David, and what kind of meat or animals does he get a chance to kill in your area? Subject, deer and sometimes bear. David, now where is the village located? Is there another village nearby? Give me some idea about that. Subject, the woods surround a great portion of our village, and on one side of the woods is a stream that widens to a river, and on the other side there's another village. David, over by the river. Subject, yeah. David, do you catch fish as well at your village? Subject, yes. David, and what kind of fish? Do you know the names or what they look like, if we had to compare them to today's fish? Subject, well, they are very big, but the name trout is what they remind me of. David, and how do you say that in your language? Subject, it's a silly word. David, see what it starts with. Subject, Tia, Gia. Jaya fish pronounced Gia fish. David, so is it almost like Tia fish? Subject, Gia. David, oh Jaya fish. Do you know how to say bear too? How would you say bear if you were to see it in your mind? Or what would it sound like? Subject, Sika, Sinka. David, how about deer? Do you know what the name is in your language for deer? Subject, Ansi, Ansank. David, is it a longer word? Just take your time. Let's see if you can hear it in your ears. Subject, Ansinka. David, Ansinka, is that close? Subject, yeah. David, and what was your name again? Asking the subject names and other pertinent or specific details later in the regression session provides me verification that they are viewing that life with that person's memories. As she was placed in a superconscious state, the subject literally finds herself back in that life, thus the fast recall when questioned again about certain things. Subject, Akinoa. David, say that one more time, please. Subject, Akinoa. David, and your husband's name? Subject, Achuli. David, do you remember your children's names, the 3 that survived? What did you name the baby? Subject, I don't recall their names. David, I want you to go deeper and deeper with me. Your mind clears even more, and you see more details of the village and the people working. You might even see yourself working while you are observing. And perhaps you see your husband coming in and out of the thatched wigwam you are living in. And while you look around, do they hunt on foot or horseback? Subject, they are on foot, but there are horses that other men have brought in from trades. David, so they hunt mostly on foot, but there are a few horses that they traded for. Who did they trade with? Subject, they traded with other men. David, okay. For what? Subject, for bearskins for pelts. David, now did your husband actually ever kill a bear? Subject, yeah, he killed 3. David, 3 bears. Did he keep the claws as well as the bearskins? Subject, he kept one claw from each bear. David, and did you eat the meat? Subject, we did. David, and how did you make it? How does it taste? Pretty good. Subject, it has a heavy taste, but very good for your body. David, did you have pots like a big iron pot, or what did you cook in? Did you wrap it in something, or how did you cook bear? Subject, mostly over a fire, in an enameled clay pot, not bowl bigger than that. David, now did your village make the bowls? Subject, no, we traded for them. David, and they had enameling on the outside or something. Subject, it was a glaze of some sort. David, so they glazed the clay bowls. Subject, yes. David, and that cooked bear pretty well on the fire? The pot didn't get too hot and break? Subject, well, you cut it up, you don't cook it in one solid piece. David, how did you get your weapons? Were there any guns in the village, or was it just? Did you trade for guns too? Subject, no, we don't have guns. David, so no guns, but do you use rock arrowheads on the end of arrows? Did you have bows and arrows, or did you have spears? Subject, spears, and some people had bows. David, now did you make the sharp ends from rocks near you? How did you do that? Subject, yeah, from sharp stones. David, so you chip them and make them. I presume the tribe would make them that way and tie them on. Subject, you can grind them against other rocks. David, so 3 bears. Were you real proud of your husband at that point? Subject, yes. We were a really good match. David, and when Achuli killed the bears, everyone had plenty to eat. Did you share some with other village members? Subject, the whole village ate. David, so the whole village would share in whatever meat came in, right? Subject, yes. David, was there a lot of rain, or did you go through periods that were pretty dry sometimes? Subject, it would get very cold. David, it would get very cold? Subject, winters were cold. David, did you grow anything outside to eat or not? Subject, no, not really. David, so would you eat plants from the woods, or did you live on meat mostly? What did you live on? What did you eat? Subject, there would be meat and berries and nuts, when we could find them, and fish. David, fish. Trout. I'm going to ask you again if you could just think in your mind of fish. How did you say trout again, or fish in your language? Subject, slight coughing, Gia. David, okay, let your throat just relax. Just relax. So, you feel yourself in the village and you were married. And you and your husband. What's his name again? Subject, Achuli. David, was it a good marriage, you said? Subject, we were very happy. David, well, that's good. He got 3 bears and had 3 children. Well, as you are relaxing, thinking about that life, and you were 17 or 18 then. Do you see yourself getting older as the years progress? Do you stay in the same place, or do you move somewhere else? Subject, we stay there, and mumbled. David, it's okay, you are only observing. What do you see? Subject, a war. A war with other tribes, with another tribe. David, then what happened? And before you go that far into that life to see what happened, I want you to come back with me to the village while you were making your rugs or your mats. Subject, coughing. I could tell the subject was getting noticeably upset as she was starting to relive the war in her subconscious. I decided it was best to go back to an earlier, happier time. As mentioned in the foreword of this book, I have no idea what a deeply regressed subject will share as we proceed through the life they are recounting. David, I want you to gently swallow, gently swallow. Now as you are making mats, we'll go back to a better time before the war. You see your children and Achuli, and you're making mats. How do they describe the country you are in? What do they call it? Subject, I never heard its name. David, so if you had to think of a map right now, and try to picture that place on a map, some country or city, going forward to today, do you see where that might be? Subject, I think it's in Virginia. David, okay. Subject, West Virginia maybe. David, so you see the word Virginia in your mind? Is that right? Or does it just feel like that? Subject, the name is familiar. David, and as you think back at 17, you begin to see calendars or numbers floating by you in your mind. What year was that roughly? What century? Subject, 18. 1801. Cough. David, so you think it was around 1801? Subject, 18. 17. 1781. 1781. David, so 1781. And you feel you are in Virginia or West Virginia. When you think about it for a moment, which one do you think it is? Subject, it's probably Southern Virginia. David, Southern Virginia, maybe in that area? Subject, yeah. David, somewhere down there. Did you ever? What color is your skin? Subject, it is dark. David, now did you ever see settlers? People with white skin? Subject, I heard about them, but I saw one time. David, you saw one time? Subject, there were men that came to trade in our village, and they brought a white man with them. David, and they were from another village to trade, and brought him with them? Is that correct? Subject, yeah. David, did he seem like a nice guy, or were you a little scared of him? What were your thoughts? Subject, a woman or oracle from our village told of his coming, and said that it was a bad omen. David, and was the oracle? Let's talk about her for a moment. Was she older? What was her background? Subject, she was older than me, but I wouldn't say she was old. David, but she was pretty good at seeing things and making prophecy? Subject, yes, she had foretold many things. David, that's interesting. Did she wear her hair like you? Subject, yes, but when she was performing ceremonies, she would take it out of her braids. David, and did she have dark skin, I presume, as well? Subject, yes, and very light eyes. David, was that something that kind of set her apart from other people in the village? Subject, they say that it was the mark of her gift. David, and what color were they? Like light blue or green or amber? What color do you think they were? Subject, they were almost gray. Like soot. David, was she pretty? Subject, in an odd sort of way, like her face didn't match itself, like there was something out of place. David, did she seem? Do you think she was from your tribe? Who was she born to? Was it anybody in your village, or did she just show up? How did that work? Subject, she was supposed to have been an orphan from a young age. So she grew up in the village, but she was taken in by a midwife. One of the midwives was the one who noticed her gift. David, but she came in as an orphan, just kind of stumbled in out of the woods? Subject, I don't remember where she came from. She was always known to have been orphaned. David, but she was very good at prophecy? Subject, she was. David, and what was her name? Subject, Shesha. David, was that her only name? Subject, that was the only name I ever knew her by. David, did she seem different from most people in the tribe? Not only gifted, but as some special person that came in to help your village? Subject, she was chosen for that purpose. David, now besides that, did she do anything with medicine or herbs besides prophecy? Did she have any other gifts? Subject, she was a healer. David, so she could help heal people in the village? Subject, she was a healer. David, did she put her hands on them, or just do all sorts of different things? Subject, she would use different herbs and balms, and she would burn things, say prayers. David, whom would she pray to? Subject, to the Great Spirit. David, so you knew there was a Great Spirit? Subject, well, yes, a Great Spirit. David, did he have other spirits to help him? Or did you just know of one? Subject, the Spirit exists in everything, so he is all things everywhere. David, and that is what your tribe believed, is that correct? Subject, yes. David, did you ever find yourself praying to Great Spirit to bring something into your life? Subject, I did the prayers that I was supposed to. David, were you angry with Great Spirit when your child died? Subject, no, I was not angry. David, you were what? Subject, I was not angry. David, because, why? Because you thought it was supposed to be? Subject, no, I was just sad. David, was it not unusual in your village to lose children to various things? Was it pretty common for every family to maybe lose one or two? Subject, my final pregnancy had been a difficult one, and the midwife had warned me that I might not be able to have many more children. David, and did Shesha work with her, or did they have more than one midwife in the tribe or village? Subject, there was the midwife. There was usually a girl apprenticing or training with her, but Shesha was at every birth so she could bless the child. David, how interesting is that? And as you let your mind take in the moment, and you're getting more and more information, can you tell me what year you think it was again? Subject, 1781. David, and you are somewhere. Did you say Southern Virginia? What are your thoughts on that based on what you've been told or whatever? Subject, it's southern but higher altitude or high elevation. David, so you're not in a valley or on flat land? Subject, no. David, can you describe the terrain or the woods? What types of trees are around you in your woods? I know you have more than one species, but what seem to be the most predominant ones? Subject, well, there are many oak trees. David, do you live on a mountain range? How does it look when they describe the village? Subject, there are many hills. It is at the base of a larger hill. David, so do you live on the top of the hill or on the side of it? Subject, toward the center, near the bottom. David, the center of the hill but toward the bottom. Am I getting that correct? Subject, yeah. David, what do they call that river near you? What's the name of that? Do you know? How do they say it in your language? Subject, don't know the name. David, does the tribe just call it Great River ? What do they refer to the river as? Subject, I don't know. David, so maybe it didn't have a name. Do you remember how they said, I'm going to the river ? What word they used for river? Or water? Subject, I can't make the sound. David, that's all right. Now, go further in time. Everything is going well in the village and all of a sudden, another village. Tell me what happened that caused a war. Go ahead. Subject, the story has been changed, but men who came to trade. Well, they traded, but they also stole children. They stole children from our village and sold them. David, oh, that's terrible. Was that the village near the river, or was that a different village? Subject, a village from the other side of the river, but not the one. Not the one closest to us. David, so they stole children, and whom did they sell them to? Subject, they sold them to other tribes and then too. Not only to other tribes, but to tribes of men that didn't belong here. David, what color were these men? What color were they? Subject, I never saw them. David, so you never saw the men? Subject, I never saw what happened to those children. We only heard these stories, and that's what made our village go to war. Children disappeared in that. David, and it was soon after that or right then? Subject, our children would go wandering, and children would go on spirit journeys, and it wasn't uncommon for children to not come home right away, but they were missing. We didn't know where they were. David, and when they sent men out to the woods, they couldn't find them. Subject, they didn't find any remains to suggest an animal had attacked or killed them. They didn't find any trace. David, were some of the men rumored to not be from Indian tribes, or were they all of Indian tribes that came? What do you think? Subject, the rumor was that they were sold to the white men who were coming on the river. David, they were coming up the river? Subject, on the river. David, they were coming on the river. Were they in some type of boat, or what kind of craft were they in? Were they on horses, or were they on boats? How did they get close? Subject, I guess they would have come on a boat, but I never saw it. David never saw the boat. How far was the river from your village if you walked to it at an average pace? How long would it take to get there? Subject, about an hour. David, so about an hour walking. Roughly? Subject, depending on if the weather was good. David, now tell me about the weather again. How long was it snowy or cold? Subject: it felt like it was cold most of the time, but in the summer when the weather would soften, it would be nice. It would be sunny. David: and how long would that last? Do you remember roughly, if you had to look at the whole year? Subject: 3 months. 4 months. 3 months. David: and then it would be cold again, is that correct? Subject: it would be cold. David: so if you looked at a map, how high do you think you were? 1,000 feet? Subject: I don't know. David: but it was high enough that you could see other mountains in the distance. Subject: yeah. David: all right. And did you like your village? Was it pretty? Subject: yes, it was the only home I ever knew. David: so your village went to war because the missing children weren't showing up? Subject: emphatically, they stole our children. David: how many? Did they steal one of your children? Subject: they stole my daughter. David: the baby? Subject: they stole her. David: okay, I want you to just observe and not get emotionally involved. And she was how old again? Subject: she was a year old. David: and what was her name? Do you remember? Subject: Chichka. Something about her. David: let's move on, go forward. Looking at your tribe and village. Were you a part of a much bigger tribe? How many villages like yours were parts of the same tribe? Was there a certain tribal name you were known by? Subject: I don't remember the name of my people. David: were there more than just your village, or were there other villages that had the same beliefs as your village? Subject: I think so, but we were alone. It felt like we were alone where we were. We were isolated. David: and how many people, say before the children went missing? How many people were in your village roughly? Do you remember? How many wigwams and all of that? Subject: maybe over 1,000 in tribe. David: so it was a pretty nice-sized village, I presume? Subject: yes. David: and how was it broken down? Was it almost an equal number of men and women, or more men or more women? What did that number look like? Subject: no, there were a lot of men. David: more men than women? Subject: yeah. David: looking at the war, how long did the war last roughly? Subject: many months. David: did both sides attack each other, or did your group go over first? When the children went missing, what happened? Just give me an idea. I know you said the story was changed, but just give me a quick version of what it looked like to you. Subject: Achuli and our leaders went to the tribe, and we attacked them first. We killed some of their men and wounded others, and then they burned our village. David: did Achuli survive the war? What happened to Achuli and to you? Subject: no one survived. David: that's terrible. So, they burnt the village. They came back and burnt your village. Did they kill everyone in the village? Subject: they killed everyone. David: okay, so now you are just going to observe quietly. What was your name again? Subject: Akinoa. David: don't get wrapped up emotionally. You are just observing, that's all. Just stepping back, don't get involved. Now I want you to tell me, how did you pass away? What happened? Subject: I was trapped. I burned alive. David: so you were trapped inside your wigwam? Is that correct? Subject: the roof fell in. David: after they set it on fire? Subject: yes. David: and how fast? How long do you see? Let me ask you this, just real lightly, after the roof fell in. I presume it was painful for a while. Was that true? Subject: yes. David: and then how long did it take until you saw yourself standing outside, or standing in the wigwam looking at your body? How long did that take? Subject: I never experienced that. I remember the pain, and then I remember when the pain disappeared, and then I felt nothing. David: was anyone there when you felt nothing? Subject: no, it was like a disintegrating sort of feeling. But there was this feeling of warmth and a peacefulness, like a quiet forest at night. David: so that's how you felt after you passed away. Is that correct? Subject: that's when my spirit became a part of everything. David: so you felt your spirit. And you said you disintegrated. So when you passed away and felt this warmth, this relaxation, did you feel your spirit? You said it felt like you separated into everything around you? Subject: yes. Like blowing dust. David: it felt like blowing dust, and you realized you were going back to Mother Earth. And as you are going back to Mother Earth, and felt yourself scattering among everything, did you see little pieces of you in a sense that buried into the trees and the plants? Did you go inside them? Subject: I don't remember any of that. I just remember being a part of everything. David: a part of everything. So, after you were a part of everything, and you were in this state of being a part of everything, then what happened? Subject: that was what I remember. David: so you don't remember if there was something more than being a part of everything? Subject: no. David: okay, that's okay. Well, that's good. So, you think it was about 1781, but you don't see yourself coming back again after that war? Do you feel like all of a sudden you became someone else after the war eventually? And woke up again? Subject: my spirit became part of everything, so in a way, it was always there and went back. David: well, let's leave that life now, and let that life drift away as we put that memory to bed. Now you're back in your bubble, flowing back above past the village, over some mountain ranges. Are you in your bubble now? Subject: yes. David: so, I just want you to float along past that village and that life. Putting that life behind you as you go forward, looking ahead or looking behind you, maybe into an earlier life. Still floating over forest and plains, and mountains and streams, and basically whatever comes into your mind. I want you to float along, exiting that life and moving on past. I want you to keep drifting along in your bubble, putting all of that past behind you. Moving forward. And as you move forward, still in your safe, protective bubble, you are just floating along. The sun's rays are coming down to you and golden light is enveloping you in love and divine love, filling your body again with all of its beautiful light. And as you move along in the bubble, you are going to keep going along, moving along. Just let your mind's eye take in the sights, going slowly along, way past that life you just explored. As I count up from 1 to 5, I want you to awaken more and more with each higher number. David, can you do that for me? Subject: yes.